for existing buildings, depending on the addition of if you're using the all-electric equipment or having solar on your roof. So there is a, I don't know if I want to say like bonus, but, or yeah, I guess it is bonus, like bonus 3 points available in changing the HERS index, going from, for existing buildings, if you install all-electric equipment, as well as a bonus 3 points for installing a solar PV array. So the big changes, again, are that to the HERS index, going from a previously a 52 to a 55 for new construction, and the requirements for existing buildings to reach that. But as there are a lot of significant code requirements between different code versions that are published in the international version available, there are more to it. The MassSave Energy Code Technical Support Program does provide trainings for those that are interested in some of the stretch code provisions that have changed between code versions. So those are available if anyone's interested. And I can share resources for that as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Any other council questions? Just one more brief one from myself. And again, thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate the presentation. Ms. Robinson kind of asked, but I'm not sure if it was really addressed, but do you have an approximate, whether it be a percentage or a number, what that additional new cost construction would be to add these features to the homes, so especially with solar panels and now potentially hookups for electric cars and things of that nature? What type of extra monies would it take for a builder to build a house with these amenities?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have direct numbers on that.
Anything ballpark or percentage of the overall construction of the house? Would it be a 5% increase, 10%?
I can't provide that. I'm not an electrician, so I don't know what the cost of materials are. I don't know what the cost of the wiring are. I know there are going to be cost analyses coming out soon that are looking into this. I know there are organizations that are trying to collect this data, so I imagine we'll have a better answer for you on this in a few months. But right now, there hasn't been a study done to estimate the cost here.
Oh, good. Great. I would love to have that information in a few months. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of it is also a little complicated because it is project specific. So costs to do this for one project might be very significantly different than costs for another project. So getting that data can be complicated. So.
All right. Well, whatever we can get would be great. But again, thank you very much for the presentation. And one last round, any other questions? Okay.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
And I'll just say, if anyone has any questions, or even in the audience, if anyone has questions, I can have my business cards I can share with you, provide any information. If you want to follow up, we do have a technical support hotline as well for the energy code. So if you have any questions on the code itself, I'm always happy to answer those as well. Thank you.
If you leave that with the council clerk, the councilors can get it from there. But
absolutely. Thank you.
It's also on the front page of the presentation, his email address. And I think there's some on the back on those extra resources. I think there is some cost information on our website that you can get at, and I'd be happy to send it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I believe the existing cost information is more for the stretch code changes, but not for the additional specialized code
I think
changes.
some of the stuff you were asking about, though, was about stretch code, because the specialized, if you electrify, it shouldn't be much different than the stretch code.
I see. Thank you so much.
I'll send you that.
All right. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. Concludes presentations for the evening. Moving on to item I, Town Manager Report. Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since Mr. Rulli is here on ordinance FY 25001, he is also our internal oversight for the fire station project, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rulli to give you an update on that one.
Thank you. Mr. Rulli.
So we received, construction commenced on June 17th. That was the expiration for the last permit from the Army Corps of Engineers to comment. There were no comments. So if you've been by the site recently, the site clearing has commenced. The construction trailer is set up. Some of the perimeter fencing has been put into place. We're having weekly meetings with the contractor, the owner's rep, myself, and Lori from finance, keeping things on track. Lori and I now have access to all the submittal and RFIs, requests for information, so we're tracking the financials. They're making making up time, making progress. The expectation is that the foundation permit has been issued, so they hope to start concrete work in August, and that will keep them on track for what the original schedule was. We have no reason the good news is it's not raining. The bad news is we wish it was raining because it's 1,000 degrees out there. But they've been out there working. I mean, I know there was some concerns, starting before 7 o'clock. We've addressed that with the contractor and the owner's rep. I know that some residents had some questions about plans and entrances. I've addressed those with that resident yesterday. We're improving the communication when people have questions. There will be an abutters meeting in a couple of weeks that we'll set up. And then we're also planning, before Labor Day to have some type of groundbreaking ceremony. We just wanted to make sure at this point that there was adequate parking for people if they were going.
Yep, very good. All right, any questions for him on fire station? Ms. Ellenberg?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rulli. Excuse my lack of information, but where is this construction happening?
It's at 1185 Pleasant Street. So if you're leaving town going west on 104, it's probably a half a mile on the right past Cumberland's.
That new big house, okay.
This will be a big new house, but it's not ready yet.
Okay. And you said the foundation permits come in August?
The foundation permit has been issued, which allowed the contractor to be doing the site work that they're doing now. There was trees removed, stumps need to be removed, they need to level the site. For them to have access to the site, we needed the foundation permit to be issued. That has been issued, so concrete work will begin in August.
Okay, and the project for this concrete work, is this the over 55 community
Nope.
ordinance?
Nope.
No.
Then what ordinance are we discussing?
This is not an ordinance, this is a
Fire station update,
fire station.
where we're at in the
Oh,
fire
okay.
station.
Okay, pardon me.
Thank you. Any other questions on fire station? Seeing none, move on to Stiles and Hart update.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have nearly as robust an update on the Stiles and Hart project. It's ongoing. Right now, working on trail improvements, which will make a good percentage of those trails in the park handicapped accessible. After that, wetland crossings, dock space on the ponds, and all accessible on those, but that will be upcoming, as will informational kiosks placed in the parking lots, which will be finished in short order as well. So that's about what I have on that, but happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Any questions from the councilors on that? Seeing none, thank you for that update. Next up would be the Perkins self-storage update.
And here's Mr. Rulli.
So the project had been approved almost 8 months ago by the planning board. We've had radio silence from the developer since that time. If something doesn't happen quickly, that approval is going to expire. And their initial plan was to try to rehabilitate a portion of the building. They determined because of the amount of asbestos that was present that wasn't cost effective. So they were going to build a completely new building, but we have not had any contact with them in months.
Okay. Very good. Any questions on that for Mr. Rulli? All right, seeing none. Finally, an end-of-year report on golf.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had meant to get this to you via paper as well, and I will do that, but let me give you verbally some of the highlights. So let me just give a little bit of a history, because I think there's a lot of confusion on the golf course. So back in roughly 2015, we were looking to, because of the ongoing general fund subsidy for the golf course that had happened for several years prior, we had sort of investigated the possibility of hiring or contracting with an operator who would take some of the operational risk away from the town. Unfortunately, we didn't have solid financials for the golf course operation. We had very poor financials for the golf course operation because of the mixing of revenues and the subsidies that the town provided. It was a very unclear exactly what kind of revenues that course could produce and exactly what kind of expenses a potential operator could expect. We improved the financial reporting, and we got a much clearer picture over the several years after that, enough so that we were able to go out to bid on the operation for the golf course, and as well as the operation for food and beverage. So we had respondents that replied to the RFP for the operation of the golf course. We also had one respondent for the operation of food and beverage. Those are two separate contracts, and we have contracted with, name right out of my head, Troon Golf, to run the operation of the golf course, the golf operation. We contracted with Barrett's to run the food and beverage operation. We made very clear that we wanted those two operations to work very closely together, and I think both of them understood that the success of one really meant the success of another. So they to date, they have worked very well together and have produced a good product, so to speak. So I will tell you, just going back to FY23, we closed FY23 with total revenues of $1,806,000, and out of that, the town reaped. After costs of debt service we reaped $344,000, and that was in FY23. We do have an obligation to pay outstanding debt and also for outstanding employee liabilities that are residual from years past. So those totaled about $190,000. So our net, after those costs were deducted out, the debt service for the clubhouse and the retiree expense for the prior employees, we netted out a little over $150,000 in FY23. FY24, the golf course had total revenues of $2,029,000, so just a bit over $2 million. And again, we grossed $404,000 as our payment under the contract with Troon. Again, cost of debt service deducted out, the cost of retired employees deducted out. We netted out $219,000, a little over $219,000. So those are the prior 2 years. Out of that money, there's a set aside for capital that we've agreed to with Troon, shared capital, and the set aside there in FY23 was $36,000. In FY24, it's a little over $40,000. Again, just based on the total gross of the golf operation. So we covered several items of capital in FY23, including a pump that had to be replaced. The pump house itself had to be replaced, and then the electrical work associated with that. So all of that came to $146,000. In FY24, our only capital expenditures to date are tree work that was required to be done, and a piece of equipment specific to the golf course, which we purchased, and the total capital there was little over $49,000. So that just give, and again, we'll translate this into understandable paper and distribute it to everybody. But that gives you an idea of kind of where we are. I do want to step back a minute. There is this perception or this notion around town that, and I understand that it was probably said many years ago when a vote at town meeting was trying to get something passed, whether it was the clubhouse vote or the golf course vote itself. My understanding is there was some vague promise that, once all the debts were paid, then the money that the golf course made would go to fund all the rec programs. That was never voted, number one, and that's not legal, number two. So the money that the golf course, the revenues that the golf course makes, we set aside and we cover the expenses, our expenses, not the operational expenses, our expenses relative to the golf course. That's what they can legally be spent on. So are we doing very well? We're doing okay. We do have positive revenue, which is good. And it's a lot different than, I can tell you, it's a lot different than it was 7 or 8 years ago when we were subsidizing the course out of the general fund. So that was the risk that we wanted to mitigate, and that's why we went with an operator in the first place. Troon, or Indigo is the name of the company. But they're a part of Troon. And so we're pleased with the work that they've done. They've managed the course to meet our expectations. The quality of the course remains good, and so far so good on that. And I realize I gave you a bunch of numbers without you being able to see them, so I'll make sure that you get copies of all of the prior 2 years' financials. But given that, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Yes, Mr. Chase had a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Dutton, I'm just wondering whether, based on the year or so of operation under the current private operator, whether we have received from them any projections as to what they anticipate for the next year or the next 5 years.
They have given us some informal projections, and I'm just looking right now. I think they base FY25's projections on FY24's actuals. So I think they're, the actuals for FY24 were a little over $2 million. Which is about a $200,000 jump from FY23. They've made some adjustments to our fee schedules with permission that we expected, and so their conservative projection is the same as last year's actual, so a little over $2 million. I would suspect they'll do substantially better than that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from councilors?
Yes.
Ms. Ellenberg.
Yes. Thank you. I have a question. Where is Troon located as a corporation?
I believe they're located in Virginia as their corporate base. They manage several hundred golf courses around the world.
Mm-hmm. I understand that they are managing a similar golf course in Falmouth. Is that correct?
I believe they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to know if you or any of your financial partners have any interest in Troon.
Me personally? Mm-hmm. Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you. You've answered for the record. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from councilors?
Not on this, but to add, to follow up.
Oh, yes, okay. Before I get to that, so just one other quick question, Mr. Dutton. You mentioned before just shared expenses on the capital. Was it shared between Troon and the town, or how is that exactly working again? On certain
correct.
expenses?
Shared between Troon and the town.
Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to clarify on that. Okay, so, yes, if any further requests of the town manager for the next meeting?
Yeah, just to follow up to see if there's any progress made on, like, some kind of meeting space for us to meet with constituents.
Yes, we are working on that. We're potentially moving a lot of people around, but we do have some progress, and we'll make sure that there is a space come fall.
Because even an area in here without moving people, or the other option, I know you and I have talked about this, is that doesn't have a door with glass in it.
Right.
For, kind of safety purposes. But what does a door cost to put over there? I'm just thinking, I don't want to displace people in their offices. That was never my intent. It was just to have a space other than a coffee shop to meet with a constituent.
Okay. No, that's a good point. And I certainly will answer that in August, but that's exactly what we're talking about, what you mentioned.
Okay.
It's another option, conference rooms that we have
Yeah.
around the building. Did you, Mr. Kin?
Through you to the town manager, just 3 quick ones. Flag Street, update on that. Update on Winter Street, where we're at with National Grid and all the poles. And then just, by the end of the summer, we were talking about getting the Patheon freezers, which I probably just said wrong again,
No.
installed on the walls. Around August will be the end of the summer, so just kind of get an update on those two. That's it for me, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Anyone else? Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. To Mr. Dutton. Mr. Dutton, the Fire Service Training Academy bill gave the fire station, the fire service, 18 acres of property off of Conan Street to the prison to convert their academy. Also within this bill, the old state farm trail was part of that law as a mitigation for taking acreage out of agriculture. So the town was responsible for paying for the land survey in the wetlands, which the town did, raise $75,000, the Natural Resource Trust, Bridgewater, and with the professional design plans done, because they had to pay the DCAM for those, the Division of Capital Assets Management and Maintenance. So now they're waiting for the DCAM to send the conservation easement. Have you received that? And if not, can you do a follow-up?
So we did get the easement.
Did you
and-
know the group that's waiting for it?
Yeah, and we received the draft of the easement. There was language that,
Just point of order, was this something that was on the agenda? I don't recall.
This is asking a question to the manager.
Yeah.
This is for next meeting.
I can answer that.
Yeah, you can't address that now,
But
but
I
for the
can-
next meeting,
I can
obviously.
come see you? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Strigels, do you have something? You're all set? Okay. Anybody else? All right, I have none, so thank you for that, Mr.
I have one question for legal counsel, if I may. And it's returning to the golf things. You stated that the golf course cannot legally give money to the recreation department. Could you please, that's what you said earlier.
I didn't state anything.
No, Mr. Dutton.
Oh, Mr. Dutton said that, okay. So legally, so can you explain the legal theory behind that?
So it's you can expend the monies that accumulate in that fund, but you have to go through a very specific process to do that. You can't just simply, I can't just simply budget the money the revenue that we get at the golf course for recreation or for the fire department or police department. So there are very specific steps you have to go through.
Do we
in
not
order
have
to
an
do that.
enterprise fund for the golf course?
No, the golf course was an enterprise fund, and then based upon the recommendations from the finance department several years ago, we abolished that fund in favor of creating a fund that the council could then use
I see.
per vote.
So just out of curiosity, the council could assign money from the budget to the recreation department if the council chose to do so, is that correct?
I believe so. You have to go through a bit of a process, but I believe you could.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ellenberg. I actually just thought of one, and it was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. If we could get a update on potential profits or no profits from the retail marijuana, if we've
Oh, yeah,
realized
that's-
any monies for that, that'd be great.
It's on the list.
Very good. All right, thank you very much, and we're moving on. Discussions, we have none. We've discussed plenty tonight as it is. No, committee reports. Does any committees have anything that they want to bring up? Seeing none? Okay.
Oh, just to let anybody know, the committee members know, but there's a ad hoc downtown revitalization committee meeting on Thursday at
morning, 9
9.
o'clock. Yep.
And I have had people ask me, is it on Zoom? Can they attend in person? And I don't know what the answer to that is.
Where is
I
it?
believe it's on, we do have it on Zoom, so.
Where is it?
Okay. If it's posted on Zoom, it should be posted, the meeting is up here in the conference room on this floor
Okay,
at 9 o'clock Thursday morning.
okay.
All right. We have no legislation for action. We have no old business. We do have one item of new business. Ordinance D FY 25-001, proposed zoning order amendment regarding senior village housing development. I will ask Mr. Rulli for a brief description on this.
So this is a request that you refer this to the planning board and the CED committee. Planning board has spent a good amount of time looking at this. One of the things that we've heard over the last year with Vision and Reality is there are members of the community 55 and older that would like to stay in the community but don't find many housing choices. I want to clarify that this has nothing to do with Lakeshore. If you look at the ordinance, the zoning districts where this allowed absolutely does not include Lakeshore. And we're being sensitive to making sure open space is preserved. Like many of our zoning ordinances, they're outdated. So currently, the only senior 55 and older housing we allow in Bridgewater now is either manufactured homes like we have at Stone Meadow, or a single facility that basically is an assisted living facility. So this is simply, just creating opportunities under certain circumstances with lots that are of a certain, parcels that are of a certain size that could be developed as 55 and older age restricted. Again, the community will have ample opportunity to comment and offer input when it goes back to the planning board and CED. We just simply want to keep moving this along.
Get the ball rolling forward, okay. Any questions from councilors
Yes.
regarding this? Go ahead.
So, just a question. I got a hold of the copy of the proposed ordinance that's going to be, referred to those two bodies, and I'm not on either of those two bodies. I hope to be at the CED when that happens. Is there a way when an ordinance change is proposed to show a copy of the current ordinance and then in either highlighted, whether it's yellow, I know that's color, or like with a box around it, what's the old, what's the proposed change?
I think we would do that, and it's similar to what we did with the CBD.
Yeah.
Once it comes out of the planning board and the CED, we'll show what the original draft was, and then we'll show whatever those changes were, and then we'll present you with a clean copy as well.
Okay, that's just
But there
helpful.
has been, all this is what the planning board had
Oh,
come
the
up with
workshop
at this point.
aspect of it.
Okay, it's just hard to understand the way it is.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to refer this to planning board and community and economic development?
Second.
Ms. Strigel, second by Ms. Robinson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. That's all for new business. All right. We're moving on to citizens' comments. Thank you for those that have stuck around here this evening. If anybody would like to come up and speak, please do. And again, keep your comments to 33 minutes or less. And I'll just repeat that due to Mass Open Meeting Law requirements, discussions will not take place during the public comment periods. Appropriate responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. Bernice, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, go for it.
I just did want to say, but 3 minutes is a short amount of time, that I really thank the town for providing that water station that you can go down and get your own water for while we're getting through this issue with the PFAs. and all of that. So thank you and all the good work that you all do, especially now after hearing about what's happening with infrastructure and whatnot. But I want to go back to the issue, not just of jet skis, but of Lake Nipanicket in general. It's really an underutilized lake, and it's being abused. I was glad to see DOER here, because when you talk about emissions and climate change and all of that, I got into this whole thing about banning jet skis because they are noxious, the emissions. There is no emissions testing for boating. And jet skis are a different animal. They don't operate with a propeller or motor, they're an impeller, and when I moved to town, they were two-stroke, and I could tell, because they stunk. The emissions that waft through the air and the oil slicks in the water told the story. So that's what got me involved, because I want to protect the lake. I want to advocate for the lake. The lake has no one advocating for it. It doesn't have a stewardship plan. It's been like forgotten territory. It could be so wonderful for our residents to do a sailing plan, swimming lessons, all the things that you see when a lake. But now it's become like a Paragon Park ride or Disney. It's not a man-made lake. It's a natural resource, and it needs to be protected. Now what we have is it's overrun by jet skis. They outpower, outmuscle, outrun anything on the water. And this is a public access issue. When you talk about public access, it's free and open access to everyone to enjoy the lake. You can't. I can't enjoy it even in my home because of the chainsaw-like noise or the leaf blowers times 18 over water. That makes that sound all that much greater. So it's not just one leaf blower you're hearing down the street. I'm talking my property abuts the lake and is very near the boat ramp, and they come right down. I carry the boating laws with me because I can't tell you how often I have to go down to the lake and say, let me introduce myself, I live around the corner, the boating laws state that you're supposed to be 150 feet out or it's headway speed. Nobody on a jet ski does that. I would say once every 2 years you see somebody on a jet ski that knows the boating laws. My husband laughs. He says, I have to pay $25 for a fishing license every year. He doesn't mind, but to operate a fishing license, a 16-year-old could run a personal watercraft and pay nothing. So there's huge issues here, but the issues for the town is that people come and beach there next to a boat ramp. The Public Access Board puts those boat ramps in. I'll just finish this one thought. And since we are not, there's no policing or enforcing the town bylaw, and there's no enforcing that there's no beach there. I wish it was a beach, but no, people come from out of town and they beach there, and that's a liability because you have a state boat ramp, boats launching, little ones swimming in the lake. It's a problem.
Thank you, Bernice.
So I do hope to hear from someone with some ideas. If not, I'll be pursuing this, and you'll see me again.
All right, thank you, Bernice.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Please come on up.
I'm Jean DiBattista, again, 260 Lakeside Drive. First of all, I wanted to thank Michael Dutton for all he's done for the town, because I have heard he's leaving. And secondly, the same for all of you. I appreciate Bob Rulli clarifying what's going on with the zoning that we came to talk about. I appreciate that very much. And I also would like to ask that when it comes to the water presentation, which I thought was really interesting, it would be nice to know what projects were included in the projections that were done with the town department and what were not, and what the costs would look like with those projects and without those projects. So I don't want to keep everybody forever. I'm sure everybody's tired, covered a lot of ground tonight, but thank you all for everything that you do.
Thank you, Jean. Anybody else? Come on up.
Very quick, Melissa Raymond out of Lakeside Drive, Bridgewater. Would just like to see more transparency with regard to water usage, with regard to these projects that are coming into town. This was a big topic of conversation with the hotel up at the lake. We talked about water a lot. In light of the increase in projects coming through and down the pipeline, we should know how much water is going to be used by these projects. We should know what our capacity is, and this should be part of the project summary, I think, for planning board when these projects are coming through. Right now, we just see this data, I think, on MEPA submissions, so it'd be nice to see it come through. And also to see more of the burden for these costs, which were exorbitant, going on to developers and not to the taxpayers of this town. I think we bear enough of a burden. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Oh, come on up.
Jean DeGasconi, 35 Ball Avenue, and I'm not here for the summer program for once. I just have a question for Mr. Dutton for the golf course on who paid for the paving. Was it, I've heard everything in the world on options.
I think I can answer that because it was on the agenda, correct?
It's citizens' comments. Probably something more appropriate. You guys can talk after.
All right.
If that's your question.
Okay. I think
Transparency is in order. I think transparency is in order.
Can't have discussion and open comment.
There's a policy that we have followed that is your policy.
That's
My job is to tell you when you're not in compliance with that policy, so we do not address citizens' comments. It has nothing to do with transparency and everything to do with your own body politics policy and ensuring that you follow your own policies.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins.
could I just ask that in a future meeting, that be
We'll see
answered?
what we can come up with.
It's
That's
not just my question, it's a question
sure. No,
that's posed to me
Yep.
constantly.
Sure.
My other thing is the NIP. A couple people have mentioned it. I went for the first time. I used to be there all the time. Great sunsets, great, just relaxing. It is so overgrown. I watched people pull up on a boat. They couldn't take this stuff out of the boat. They had to walk around the stone wall, whatever, for the boat ramp, just if something could be done to clear that. I was actually embarrassed to see it, that it used to be so nice, and now it's completely overgrown. That's it.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. I think we got just about everyone is here that's comments, so we will move on to council comments. I will start to the right today with Mr. McKinnon.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, just want to thank Al Lacerda and Paul Mulcahy for all the work they've been doing down at the Town River Landing. They had some events this weekend that I wasn't able to be a part of, but heard they were a great time for the people that went. They had a brew fest, and they also had a country fest, which I heard were great times, but they do a lot down there, and it's good to see them continuing to try to keep doing community building things. And then just want to briefly talk on me. Wish I said this last meeting, because honestly I wouldn't have been here today. I would have been in New Hampshire instead of waking up early to get my well installed. But I'll be 30 Monday, and the next few months are going to be very busy. So if I do miss a meeting, I apologize ahead of time. You don't think things are going to line up how they do, but I missed a meeting in June because of this, and I almost missed tonight's, but I'll just wake up early and get things done. So just wanted to give a heads up. If I miss any meetings in the next few months, I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Ms. Robinson.
Actually, no comments from me. Thank you.
No comments. Ms. Ellenberg.
Yes, I wanted to say the Country Music Fest was very good, and I enjoyed it, and I guess that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Murphy.
I will also forego comments.
Okay. Mr. Lindy.
I don't have a lot to say. All I know is these meetings are getting more difficult to make comments other than now at the end of a meeting. And we don't talk about some things that are really major issues, okay? There's a change going to happen here, and we're not going to even talk about it tonight. That's all I have to say.
All right. Mr. Chase.
No, nothing this evening. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Ms. Driggles.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say a big thank you to the 4th of July committee. You put on a fabulous, fabulous day for the residents of this town and beyond. The parade was wonderful, the fireworks were lovely, and I just want to give that very, very, very dedicated crew their kudos. And on a note similar to Mark, what we do in this job is hard. We're making decisions for residents and our constituents. It's very important for us as a council to be well prepped and well prepared. So in the future, when we have very, very, very large decisions that are coming forward for us to potentially consider, it would be very helpful if we had that information at least 72 hours before a meeting. So
You're here.
Yep.
that is my last comment.
Thank you, Mr. Eagles. Mr. McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two things. One is the council is supposed to have a public meeting twice a year.
That's
Right.
to be, that's in the charter.
I'd like to recommend that we either have it in August or September, because there's so much going on. I'd like to hear more from the residents and be able to
I
talk
think
with
there's
them.
suggested times that we do that, but we'll look into that for sure.
Okay, and the other thing, I'd like to encourage my fellow councils to watch the planning board meeting. That was on June 26, 2024. You can let me know if I'm stepping over. This is the first developer presenting their plans using the form-based code. And the developer is using density bonus, which wants to put 26 units on this lot. And because it's a tight fit, the dumpster is actually being placed in the front of the lot alongside one of the buildings that are facing the street. And the planning board pointed out that it is so packed that a fire truck could not reach one of the buildings in the back of the lot. And also, the developer wants to put residential units on the bottom floor facing the street and only one retail. So I'm going to kind of encourage us to maybe look and make some amendments to this zoning code, that we bring down the density, instead of 26.
So now are we talking about like something that you would legislate?
Yeah, we have to be careful
Yes.
what we're
So
talking
I
about.
just,
there.
I
wait.
just want to be careful not, because if you're going to legislate it, that's obviously fine. You absolutely can do that. You want to put it on the agenda, though,
Yes, we
as
just don't want to
as
discuss it right now.
legislation. Just so you've
Okay.
noticed, because you don't want to have any sort of quorum
No, I don't
in
want to
discussion.
discuss it now. I just want to, in the future, that we could talk about that and talk about maybe not allowing any units on the ground floor with the facing it. So something to consider, and maybe put it on the agenda another time.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. Thank you. And finally, for me, I want to exactly thank the 4th of July committee for all their hard work. Another successful 4th of July through be the parade, the arts vendors, the fireworks, of course, and the carnival out in front there. Everything went pretty much without a hitch. I think we had a very respectful and well-behaved crowd as well. Everyone chipped in, police, fire, you name it. Everything went very well. And again, it's a small, dedicated group, as Mr. Eagle said, that do it. So they deserve all the praise for their efforts. And again, to the citizens who contributed, the business that contributed, because again, it's not a cheap affair. And I'm sure they're already starting plans for next year, and we'll consider taking your donations for next year. But that's all I have as well. We do not need executive session. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I didn't think so. Have a good night, everybody.